Ana Yepes, and I'm from Ecuador. I was 8 years old when I came from Ecuador. I came on a tourist visa with my family, my dad, my mom, my brother, and my sister. School here was a lot different. Over there, all schools wear uniforms. Here was a public school. We didn't have to wear uniforms. Obviously, language was much different. I didn't speak English, so I had to learn how to deal with the culture shock because it was different. It was different environment, different way of teaching, and just different. It was a little hard to deal with because at the beginning you feel like you're an alien. You're different. Nobody speaks the way you speak, and nobody maybe thinks the way you think. So to kind of come together with that was a little different. But of course, I was 8 years old, which it was a good thing for me because I was small, so I was able to come together with different culture, with this culture. I do miss my family over there. I think that was one of the hardest things for me here because over there I was surrounded by uncles, grandfather, grandmas, and cousins and stuff like this. When I came here, I was alone. I had a few cousins, but they lived far away, and I only had my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. And it was hard because I felt alone. My parents had 2 jobs because they had to, support me. It was a new country. They don't earn a lot of money, so they had to have 2 jobs each. So I was mostly by myself the whole day with my sister. So missing my family over there was the hardest thing. It took me like around 2 years to really get used to not having them in my life, especially my grandparents, which I didn't get to see my grandma again because she passed. Unfortunately, she passed away. But my grandpa, he came here once. So yeah, I think my family was the hardest thing for me. I started to realize the school was gonna be a struggle for me was after high school when I had to start paying my tuition bills. So I went to a community college for 2 years. So that was a little less expensive for me. Had to pay out of pocket. So I graduated with an associate in social science. From there, I transferred my credits to Montclair State. And from there, I've been taking some classes, but it's a little difficult because I have to pay myself, and the classes are expensive. So I guess college would be where I found it a little bit struggling, just because money-wise. I have really supportive parents, but I need, I have to pay myself because they're not able to help me the whole way. So I think it's difficult on any student that's working and studying at the same time. It's a little overwhelming because I do have to work a lot and pay my own things with school and stuff like that. It's a little harder to find jobs that sometimes they ask for social and stuff like that. So I have to do most of restaurant jobs and stuff like that. So it's busy to have a full-time job and have school on the side, but I just think most students would find that, even if they're not immigrants, they would find that difficult. So okay, the Dream Mat would have helped me a whole lot it would still help me. It would have helped me too when I was doing community college, and now for financially, it would have been able to give me more opportunities to maybe apply for financial aid. Just taking internships in different places would have given me a social that I could do different internships in different places. It would help me just to be in peace here, not fearing anything or anybody. It would have also given me the opportunity to go back to my country and visit my family that I haven't seen in 14 years. I think it would have really helped me in all those ways. I think I've been here since I was 8 years old. This is pretty much my country. I was raised here, went to school here, and it feels like it, but I know paperwork doesn't say so. So I think just that, maybe validating it a little bit, would have helped me in my schooling and been able to accomplish my dream faster, because right now it's taking a little bit because I can't pay 4 or 5 classes that semester. I have to take a few classes each semester because I'm not able to afford the whole full-time school. So that dreamer would have helped me in those ways. My hopes for the future is to graduate with my psychology degree. I want to do psychology social work. Have a job helping, like DIFAS job, like helping being with kids and families, kids and families, and what was the other question? It would be there. It would be helping. My ideal job would be helping different families. Doing social work would be my ideal job. And my hope for the future is that I'm gonna get that job eventually, and it's gonna take a little bit, but I think I'll be able to make it.
I was 4 years old when I came to the United States. I was with my 2 older brothers, 2 uncles, and a few other people that were close to my family. I came here because my parents were here. Also because my grandparents had died, so nobody could take care of us back home. So that's a major reason why we came here. My life growing up here in the United States was pretty good. When I was younger, I would do normal stuff as any other kid would do. I went to school here. As I got older, it got harder because since I didn't have a social or something like that, I couldn't get my license or go back to school, college. So as I got older, it got difficult. When I graduated high school, I did want to go back to college, but the DREAM Act wasn't approved yet, so I couldn't sign up to colleges or go back to school, basically. I do want to go back to school. I want to have a career, and I want to have a job where I like. I haven't gone back to school because I still don't know what I want to do. So that's a major reason why I haven't gone, but I do want to go back to school, have a career, have a good job. The DREAM Act means to me an opportunity to do things that I couldn't have done when I was getting out of high school. Like right now I have my license, I can go back to school, find a better job, do things that other people can't do. I was the first one out of my brothers to be approved with the DREAM Act, so it was a relief. My parents were proud. They want me to go back to school. Well, I got a lawyer, so he could do the paperwork. That way it could be easier. It wasn't expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. I had to pay a certain amount of money to apply. So it didn't take that long. It took like around about 3 months. There's a few processes that you have to go through. Like first, they have to fill it out. You have to have a high school diploma and certain other things. You have to work. Then after that, you get a notice which you receive for your fingerprints and your photo, so they can give you an ID. And then the last process is receiving your social security number, which you have to do that on your own. And then from there, you're basically set. My brother was harder. It took about 7-8 months. For me, it took less than 3 months. They were asking him for when he graduated and what he did when he graduated, if he was working or not. And he wasn't working, so he couldn't. They were wondering how he got the money to apply for it, pay for the lawyer and everything. So it was harder for him. For me, I was working, so it was easier. I could prove some things that he couldn't do, and it didn't take that long, 3 months. But it feels like it takes forever because you get just mail to your house saying a day and where you have to be. So, yeah. I mean, it didn't take that long for me. I feel like if it was a month or so. But for my brother, it was longer. He felt like it was a year. Have I ever felt like if I didn't belong in the United States? When I was younger, about 7 years old, I did, because I was just learning the language, adapting to the schools and everything. And as I got older, I made friends. I went to a few schools that weren't in my county. In high school, when I was graduating, I went to State County Technical Institute. So at some point, I felt like I didn't, because I grew up here. I learned the language. I made friends. I graduated, went to school here. So as I got older, I felt like if this was my home. I came here when I was young, and I don't remember much when I was back home in Mexico. Right now I'm not working. I'm looking for a job. I was, you could say, fired from my last job just because of something. I really haven't gone out to look for like a job. I just, whenever they tell me, I just go. It's not really hard. If I put mind to it and effort to it, I believe I'll get a good job. With some interviews I go for, they ask about what I've done and where have I worked in. So I only had 3 jobs, and that's not much, but if you're not experienced, they won't take you. So it's hard to find a job where they pay you good and yeah, basically it's hard because you need experience or some type of degree or something like that. Now, since the DREAM Act was approved, I believe it's going to be easier. I can apply wherever I want or wherever I want to. Before the DREAM Act wasn't approved, I couldn't apply to certain jobs because I didn't have a social or an ID of the state. But now I have my license. I can go to other towns and apply for jobs. So I believe now it's going to be easier. It might take a little bit, but it's going to be easier.
Hi, my name is Kamila Kolodinska. I'm a student at Montclair State University. I'm a senior. I'm a political science and jurisprudence major, and I came here 12 years ago from Poland, and right now I'm on F1 visa status. An F1 visa status is you're an international student that comes to the United States or any other country and you study there. So you have a visa status for as long as you're studying. Like, let's say, for example, you're an undergraduate student, you come here for 4 years, and the intent is that you get an education here in the US and then you leave back to your country. I really enjoyed my life in Poland. All my family's there, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, everyone's there. So my life in Poland, I have a very close family. We always did everything together, Christmases, Easters, parties, things like that. So we're always together. Going to school, you're around people that are just like you. So around all Polish people, not a lot of culture is around. So It was definitely like it was comfortable for me. It was a comfort zone.
Okay.
It was actually very difficult when we first in Poland, when we went to doctors and we found out that my sister needed more close medical attention, and the only organizations and hospitals that would give her that attention were in the United States. We had to find a way and actually find a sponsor for us to be able to come here. So it was difficult first trying to find a sponsor, and then the process was also difficult to trying to get visas. We went to Warsaw, and the first time, I remember my dad, they gave him the visa to come to the US, but not us. So my mom was already here, so she came with my sister before us. And then my dad and us, we had to be taken out of school, so we had to be signed out of school first. So we had to leave later after my sister left. So getting the visas was kind of difficult. First we were denied, and then the second time my mom had to find more paperwork and documentation proving that we needed to be with them together as a family unit. So it was very difficult to try to actually be able to come to the country. It was really hard. I guess it's hard for anybody to leave your home country, to leave everything behind, and especially since she has a medical condition that renders her to be under care, like doctor care for the rest of her life, like checkups and things like that. So for her to come to a country where she doesn't know the language, she really doesn't know what's going to happen to her medically, it was pretty scary. It was very, very different and very distant. Like, she was distant at times to us because she didn't know what was going to happen to her, so it was very difficult. My sister has neurofibromatosis, which affects her spine, her back, and there's also liquid building up in her brain. So she has like a little robot thing. I don't really know the basics of it, but it takes the water away from her brain so that it doesn't swell up. It was so difficult for me. I remember my first day in school. In Poland, the first day of school, what you do is you have a nice white crisp shirt on and a skirt or a dress, like a black dress. So it's white top, black dress. So you can imagine that's how I went to school for the first day. And I will never forget this. All the kids were laughing at me, and I didn't know why, because that's how you're supposed to dress to school when you're in Poland, the first day of school. So for me, that was a shock. Second, the language. I didn't know one word in English. I didn't know anything. So I walked into a classroom full of people. It literally I did not know what they were talking about, what they were saying to me. And it was just really hard. I remember the first day coming back home, I started crying, and I told my dad, I was like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. These kids are laughing at me. I don't know why they're laughing at me. I didn't like it at all. It was hard. But then after a little while, after a few days, I was put into the ESL program. So I was actually able to be around kids that were also learning how to speak English. So after a few months, I was able to adjust to the culture. And then, the holidays, as the holidays went on, like let's say first Halloween. I didn't know what Halloween was at all. So, in grade school, you have like the Halloween parade. The day before, our teacher told us, you have to dress up for the Halloween parade. And I came home and I told my mom, again, I started crying because I'm a crybaby because I didn't know really anything about the culture. So I said, I don't know what this Halloween parade is. I don't know what I'm supposed to, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to dress up as? I don't know. So I remember we went to, I think it was either CVS or Walgreens, and we tried to, we found one of those witch hats. We got that, and then my mom went home with me, and she actually helped me. She got this really old dress that she had, and we put it on, and it was black, and we made me look like a witch, and that was my first experience with an American culture, American holiday. So it was pretty cool. So Constitution Day at Montclair actually happened on Constitution Day, which was pretty cool for the first year. At first, doing Constitution Day, I signed up for it initially, and then I took a step back and I thought to myself, whoa, I've never really talked to anyone about my status and about my experience as an immigrant. So I talked to my professor, Professor Drake, and I said, I'm a little nervous about this. I haven't really told anybody about my situation and my status. So then he reassured me. He told me what we're going to go over. And then the day of, I sat there and I watched the expert panel, and I had this overwhelming feeling. My palms were sweaty. I was just like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna do this well. But then I got up there, and moments before, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just gonna tell my story so that people know what it really is like to be an immigrant in this country, that it's not as easy as people think it would be. And I just pretty much spoke about what my experience was as an immigrant. And to me, it was very important, because it was probably the first, like I said, it was the first time that I've ever talked about it. So to me, it was like a healing experience, because I did mention on Constitution Day that my experience as an immigrant was pretty negative. I mean, now I'm on F1 status, so I didn't get a green card. I'm an international student, so talking about that in front of all those people was very therapeutic for me, and also having them know what it really is like to be an immigrant was rewarding for me. As a child, having that sponsor and being sponsored, you always thought, like, my parents tried to shelter us from like knowing, that the process is very long and that it's going to take years before. So it didn't really occur to me that we had to go back, because as I got assimilated with the culture in the United States, it didn't even occur to me that I could go back, because I've become so part of the US culture, and like I had friends here, and everything was starting to fall into, right now everything starts to fall into place. You don't really want to think about, maybe I'm gonna have to go back, and what am I gonna do? I'm gonna try to rebuild my life again. So I definitely haven't even thought about trying to, having to go back and rebuild my life again. So definitely I haven't thought about it. Okay, so right now I'm an F1 international student. Like I said, I'm on an F1 visa, and I have my status until I finish my studies. So let's say I'm a senior now, so I'm gonna finish in May of 2014. After that, I have the option of doing OPT, which is optional practical training, meaning that I would have to find a job in my field of study, so political science or jurisprudence. And if I can find a job, then I can get the work authorization to work here for 1 year. Now, some students are able to actually work for people that find their skills necessary to their job, so they'll sponsor them. So sponsor will, give you an H-1B. Well, they won't give you an H-1B, but you apply for the H-1B visa. And if you're granted the H-1B visa, you can later pursue the green card. So that's one option, so through work. Second option is marriage. So if I get married to a US citizen in good faith, you have to be married in good faith. You can't just, so that option, I'm only 22 years old, so I don't think that's an option. So work authorization is definitely work authorization, and then H-1B, and then possibly green card is my best option. I have not been to Poland in 12 years, so I haven't seen my cousins in 12 years. I haven't seen my family in 12 years. I haven't been in school there. The school system is a little different. High school is a little different. College is a little different. I don't know if they'll take my college degree there. It's a lot to think about. So the first thing I would have to do, I guess, is just, where am I going to stay? Because my parents are here. So where would I stay? Maybe with my cousins. And then second thing is, where would I work? Would I go to get a master's degree? What does the master's degree entail in Europe and Poland? So it's just a lot of little things fall together. So it's like this huge overwhelming feeling of, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get a job? How am I going to be able to afford things? And it's just, right now, even thinking about it is just making me very nervous to think about it. So I'm thinking, positive thinking, perhaps I will get that work authorization from a sponsor, and then work authorization, sponsor, and then a green card. So I don't even want to think about having to go back to Poland, because like you can see, is just a lot of things that people don't think about, you have to think about. So getting a job, where am I going to live? Am I going to go to school later? Because I do want to get my master's, I just don't want to stay on a bachelor's, so getting a master's. And I only speak Polish to my parents and my sisters. So although my Polish is good, it's not as good as the people that live in Poland. So thinking about that also. And then schools in there, most of the schools there are conducted in Polish. So where does that leave me? I would have to go get my master's degree in Polish, and I don't know if I'd be able to do that. So that's another thing to think about. So it's just a lot of different things about my life that I would have to plan for, and that's very overwhelming. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't happen. I do work at International Services. I started working there in February on campus. So I do come across a lot of international students. And once again, this is, I don't know, things just fall into place in life, I guess, because working there has definitely been a blessing for me, because I'm able to talk to other international students that have situations similar to mine. So not only am I able to give them advice and try to help them in any way I can through work and then personally, but it's actually once again, like I said before, it's good for me. It's therapeutic for me because I've had a negative experience as an immigrant. So being able to talk to people that have similar situations as me is definitely an advantage for me. Through my experience, a definition of an immigrant would be someone who is an outsider, someone who's looked at less than, let's say, someone that's a citizen of a particular country. So it's definitely someone who has to go through many hardships to actually prove themselves to be worthy of living in the country that they stay in. And it's someone who deals with many struggles day to day. Yeah, I work in international services, but it's I can only work, just like other students that work on campus, I can only work up to 20 hours per week, and I can't work off campus. I can only work on campus. Yeah. Yeah. I can only work on campus on an F1 visa. Well, I think what I missed about Constitution Day is we've had a few questions during Constitution Day where students asked me about like the negative connotations to being an immigrant, and I did address that. And many of them have these perceptions of what it means to be an immigrant, and it's people that steal jobs from citizens of the United States. It's people that live undocumented on purpose, or defy the law and don't pay attention to regulations of the United States, and that they should be deported. And I just want to say that immigrants want other people to look at them as equals, as people worthy of living here. Like that's all that we want, is people to recognize that we're not less than. Just because we don't have that piece of paper that says that we're U.S. citizens doesn't mean that we're any less worthy of living here than U.S. citizens. And may I add just a little, because this always frustrates me when people say, I'm a U.S. citizen, I am from here. But we all have to understand that living here in the United States means that at some point, someone from your family came here. Someone migrated here. So it's important for people to understand, although yes, you are a U.S. citizen, you might have had 3 generations of your family be here. At some point, someone did come here from somewhere else. That makes you an immigrant. Although indirectly, it makes you an immigrant as well. So that's all I wanted to say.